This right here is arguably the highest stakes story of our modern era. We're diving into Chris Miller's phenomenal explainer, Chip War. And honestly, this is way more than just a history of wires and silicon. It's a thrilling, cutthroat battle for global supremacy. I mean, think about it. Every single time you grab your smartphone, start your car, or catch a headline about international geopolitics, you are literally interacting with the front lines of a conflict that's been raging for decades. It is a massive battle over who gets to control the future.
Now, just take a second and absorb this quote from Akio Morita, the co-founder of Sony. Back in the late 1980s, he co-authored a book called The Japan That Can Say No. And man, this quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the staggering economic and national security stakes of this whole technological conflict. They weren't just trying to sell more consumer electronics. No, this was viewed as a deliberate, strategic avenue to global dominance, basically bypassing traditional military might altogether to strike right at the absolute heart of the world's economy.
Section 1. Welcome to the Chip War. And look, this isn't just ancient history. We're talking about a multi-front Darwinian struggle that actively shaped our modern world order. So, before we hit the battlefields, let's just make sure we're all on the exact same page about the weapon being fought over here, the chip, or integrated circuit. It's really just a tiny piece of semiconducting material, usually silicon, but get this, it has millions or even billions of microscopic transistors carved right into it. These tiny little switches are the absolute brains behind everything in our digital age. They are the fundamental units of all computing power. Section 2, the Pentagon's offset strategy. Because you gotta ask, who actually realized the power of these chips first? Well, it was the military. The US government caught on really early that this tech had the potential to completely rewrite the rules of warfare. To put that into perspective, think back to World War II. Strategic bombing back then was just blunt force. You'd drop bombs and hope they fell within, say, 1,000 feet of their target. You needed this massive, overwhelming volume just to guarantee a single hit. Now, compare that to modern warfare, driven by the chip-powered precision strike weapons advocated by defense officials like William Perry. We're talking cruise missiles and smart weapons hitting exact, specific marks. The chip basically replaced the blunt force of carpet bombing with terrifying pinpoint accuracy. Whoever controlled this tech, they controlled the battlefield. Section 3. The Japanese technological onslaught. Now, the battle-steel didn't stay confined to the military for long. An incredibly aggressive ambush was about to be launched by a totally unexpected overseas competitor. So in the 1980s, Japan just radically disrupts the entire status quo. First, they aggressively scale up production of DRM memory chips, the ones essential for personal computers. Second, companies like Toshiba and Fujitsu didn't just compete, they absolutely outmaneuvered American companies on cost and reliability. It was like they were bending the laws of physics and economics. And third, like we saw with Sony's Akio Morita earlier, they were getting highly vocal about this newfound power. To the US, this wasn't just losing some market share. No, this posed a fundamental, existential threat to American tech dominance. The geopolitical friction was absolutely off the charts. Section 4, Silicon Valley strikes back. Forget that cliché image of quiet, sterile engineers in lab coats. The people who actually saved the US chip industry, they were fierce, bare-knuckled brawlers. First up, you have Andy Grove, famously known as Intel's butt-kicking Hungarian. Grove was CEO during the company's most turbulent years. The guy was known for this intense, almost suffocating paranoia. I mean, he literally wrote a book called Only the Paranoid Survive. He had an incredibly aggressive, ankle-chewing management style. But you know what? That absolute tenacity, his willingness to push his people to the absolute limit, is exactly what saved Intel from bankruptcy when the Japanese DRM onslaught hit. He brought a hardcore survivalist mentality to the valley. Then there's Jerry Sanders, the founder of AMD. This guy was a flamboyant Rolls-Royce driving salesman who literally survived a near-fatal brawl on Chicago's South Side in his youth. And he brought that exact same street fighter mentality straight into the tech industry. He was flashy, he was loud, and he flat out refused to pretend the international market was a fair fight. He knew it was a war, and he fought it exactly like one. And rounding out our rapid-fire montage is honestly one of the most unlikely heroes of the chip war, Jack Simplot. An Idaho potato farmer who became a billionaire, he brought this raw, cowboy competitiveness to the table.
It was actually his crucial funding that helped a scrappy little Idaho startup named Micron survive that crushing Japanese pricing pressure. It took the market wisdom and cold, hard cash of America's greatest potato farmer to empower Micron's cost-cutting engineers to just stay in the fight. The sheer ruthlessness of these guys led to some absolutely wild strategic maneuvers. Like Jerry Sanders famously said, "My enemy's enemy is my friend." Silicon Valley firms were actually so desperate to undercut their Japanese rivals that they willingly transferred top-tier DRAM technology over to South Korea. Yep, they helped build up companies like Samsung, literally providing tech and licensing designs just to make sure Japan didn't hold a total monopoly on memory chips. It was a purely calculated Darwinian move for survival.
Section 5. The single supply chain. So let's slow down a bit. We're moving from those chaotic, testosterone-fueled brawls of the past into the highly precise and, frankly, highly fragile modern reality of chipmaking. To really picture this modern reality, go back to the 2006 Macworld conference. Steve Jobs is standing on a dark stage. Suddenly, blue smoke erupts, and out walks Intel's CEO Paul Otellini, entirely decked out in a sterile white bunny suit. You know, that intense protective gear they have to wear in modern chip factories just to keep everything ultra clean? He hands Jobs a silicon wafer. And this theatrical moment perfectly illustrates how chip manufacturing had evolved. It definitely wasn't a scrappy garage operation anymore. It had become a world of unimaginable complexity, requiring microscopic precision in environments literally cleaner than a hospital operating room.
But here's the catch. That insane complexity has created a massive, dangerous bottleneck in next-generation EUV lithography. That's the specific tech required to carve the absolute smallest, most advanced transistors today. Now, business gurus love to praise perfectly globalized supply chains, right? But as the source material points out, that's kind of a myth here. Sure, the scientific networks are global, but the actual manufacturing of EUV lithography tools, it is completely monopolized. We're looking at a single supply chain, managed by a single company.
And as Chris Miller makes crystal clear in his analysis, we cannot forget what is really at stake here. Every single day, the global balance of both military and economic power is being dictated by quintillions of these tiny, invisible transistors. They're guiding our missiles, they're running our global financial markets, and they're powering absolutely all of our communications.
Which leaves us with one incredibly provocative question. What happens when the world's most critical technology relies entirely on a single supply chain managed by a single company? It is a wildly precarious reality. The forces shaping our modern world are invisible, incredibly complex, and fiercely contested. The chip war? It isn't over. The battle lines have just shifted. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on the silicon. It is quite literally writing our future.